welcome to the next edition of AtomicErgo. My name is Earl Ray Neal. I'm your host, and we are really excited to have Dr. Leslie Cadet with us today. Dr. Cadet, welcome to you. Thank you for making time for us.
Thank you so much for having me.
You're very welcome. So I'm going to impress the audience here just for a few minutes with all of the stuff that you've done academically. I was telling Dr. Cadet before we started on our pre-podcast that she's so smart that she makes me nervous just to talk to her. So I want to give you some of her background. She has a BS in biomedical science from the University of South Florida. She has her MD from the University of Miami. She has her Master's of Public Health from Harvard. She's certified in occupational medicine. She is a certified medical examiner. And then a couple of the cool things aside from all that that really stood out to me is she's the current attending physician for employee health at Loma Linda University Medical Center, where she was just named Teacher of the Year. I'm an adjunct and I love teaching, so I know what that means to you. And then she is a flight surgeon in the United States Air Force and has flown over 1,000 combat missions and over 2,000 airlift missions. So thank you very much for your service, Dr. Cadet. We sincerely appreciate it. You're welcome.
Thank you.
So with that being said, we're going to just jump right into it. We want to learn as much about you as we possibly can. So obviously your education is impressive. It's heavy in the sciences. So at what point did you decide to dedicate your career to medicine, and how did you make that transition from being a flight surgeon to occupational health?
Nice. So I've actually wanted to be a physician since I was in 4th grade. And so the journey for me started with a science teacher who just did an amazing job explaining the human body and how wonderfully we've been created. And so from there, it was just a matter of me turning in my homework assignments, studying for all my tests, making good grades. And then when I graduated from medical school, it really was a full circle moment because so much time had been dedicated to finally graduating. And my cousin, who's a cardiologist, he said to me one day, we sacrifice our 20s to become physicians. And when you think about how people put so much value on that age bracket, it's like, yeah, we give up so much to become physicians. And so while I was in medical school, I joined the Air Force to pay for medical school. I come from a military family, and my dad was in the Air Force. So military life was very comfortable for me. It was very familiar. And so when I completed my intern year in internal medicine, the Air Force asked me to come to Texas and come on active duty as a flight surgeon, which is a bit of a misnomer. I don't do surgery in the sky, but I love the job because it allowed me to take care of air crew. So I took care of pilots, I took care of navigators, I took care of load masters, and I not only got to take care of the flight crew, I also got to take care of their family members, so their spouses and their kids. So I'm kind of like the team doc and the family doc all wrapped into one. So it was an amazing experience. I loved being in the Air Force, but eventually I transitioned back to the civilian world, and that's when I landed in Southern California, working at Loma Linda University. I do have a heart for teaching. And so now, instead of taking care of air crew, I take care of your local teacher, your custodian, your nurse. I take care of your firefighter. And the goal is still the same, to make sure that they're healthy enough to do the job. And what I love about it is it really highlights how important everybody's job is to make our society function. So often we'll put emphasis on a certain job because we think it's more prestigious, when the reality is jobs that we characterize as being lower on the totem pole are just as important as the jobs that are higher up on the totem pole. So yeah, that's kind of how I got started in medicine and transitioned over to occupational medicine.
So you've already touched on this just a little bit, but I'm always interested, taking into consideration your educational background and then your career history. You had hard work that you put in. You're obviously a brilliant person, but there's a drive that comes along with that. So where did that come from? Who you've already touched on a little bit. Who were your influencers to sort of get you on your path?
Yeah. So if I could talk in two perspectives, one perspective would be my family members. So my mom, she majored in the sciences when she was in college. She's an educator. My father, he was in the military. And so both of them were very hardworking. So I picked a lot of my characteristics up from them. I have two young sons who also motivate me to go the extra mile. And then if I was to switch perspectives to more, people that I don't know personally, people like W.E.B. Du Bois are really influential for me. He was the first Black man to earn his PhD from Harvard. So I look up to him, folks like Charles Drew, who invented the transfusion processes in hospitals, Ben Carson, and even in the modern age, Dr. Hadaya Nicole Green, who is a research scientist who has found a cure for cancer using nanoparticles. So she's starting off, or she's been in the game for quite a while, but she's in the process of trying to move her stuff to clinical trials. So those types of people who go in, they have new ideas, they implement what they believe in. They are my source of inspiration to keep going.
So there are about 77 million, our founder calls them boomers, born between 1946 and 1964. And if you do those numbers, they are reaching retirement age about one every 8 seconds. So along with that demographic comes the disease of natural aging, things like something that's kind of start with me, arthritis and those types of things. Although those are considered the result of natural aging, what, in your opinion, should employers be doing to accommodate this population? Because, in a lot of states, even the arousal of those pre-existing conditions are compensable under workers' comp law.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think one thing employers can do is to kind of move away from this idea that the position is a round hole and we're going to put people in that position, in that round hole, who are actually square pegs, right? We're going to force the worker to meld and mold to the position. I think we should move more towards creating positions that better fit the worker. One of the reasons I was so happy to come on the podcast is because having access to ergonomic resources is huge when you're talking about workers who are starting to feel the effects of degenerative disorders. And so making ergonomic evals readily accessible, making tools that are ergonomically considered before you give them to the worker is another great way to kind of offset some of the things that are happening in the body naturally.
I've always taken the opportunity to point out to employers, a little bit of investment on the front end. And I'm not just talking about money, I'm talking about human investment for your custodian to say, you know what, you are important to me. So here are the tools that fit you to be able to do your job because it's an important job. That investment pays dividends that you just can't even imagine on the front end. So
absolutely.
Yeah. One of the subjects that we've heard a little bit about has to do with lower extremities, feet, ankles, knees, hips, those types of things, MSDs. But we're starting to hear more. Do you see many patients with work-related lower extremity MSDs?
I do. I would say half of my caseload is lower extremity MSDs. And a lot of it has to do with, I was walking quickly and I pivoted and I hurt my knee, or maybe I've fallen and hurt something on the lower extremities. lots of walking on uneven surfaces and having ligamentous type injuries. The hips, usually when I see a hip issue, it's because of a fall or it's because of something ergonomic, like the way that their desk and their chair height is set up is throwing things off for them. But yeah,
And
half of my
thus
caseload.
the Ergo app.
There you go.
We were excited to kind of bring you into the fold, so to speak, and
Love it.
see what your thought about our app was.
So
So when
good.
you're talking to employers, what do you, how do you approach the issue of encouraging early reporting? Because there's some cultures out there, work cultures, that almost encourage people to hide those issues.
Yeah,
So how do
yeah,
you talk to them
yeah.
about that?
Yeah, I explain to employers that encouraging early reporting is really a way of encouraging employee wellness. When you bring the employee in on day one and you say, hey, these are some of the possible hazards that you may run into, as soon as something starts to happen, please let us know because we have all of these resources that we can use to help you prevent injury. That does a couple of things, but primarily it shows the worker that you actually care about them. Because we're living in an age right now where most workers feel like their employer does not care. And so there's no sense of loyalty. There's no sense of wanting to make the organization better because you don't have my needs in mind as an employee. And I would say that early reporting is going to, as you said, save you so much on the back end when you go ahead and address it while it's small, as opposed to letting it grow into a workers' comp case that's costing your organization tens to hundreds of thousands of dollars. Yeah.
So I'm going to just skip to the pinnacles of your career question, because I want you to take some time to talk to us about your new undertaking, because I'm really excited about this. I know our listeners will be. So tell us about Ascend.
Thank you. So I founded a new company called Ascend Occupational Medicine Consulting, and it was born out of a desire to help both the employer and the employee have a better work environment, have a safer, healthier work environment. And so we have a couple of things that we do. One, we help employers lower their workers' comp costs. And part of the way that we do that is by educating them on the importance of a strong return to work program, strong light duty programs. And then the other way we help is by training actual medical providers, the ones who are taking care of the injured workers. There are a lot of nuances to occupational medicine and workers' compensation, and these things are not taught in traditional residency programs, and they're not taught in the programs that train up nurse practitioners and physician's assistants. So Ascend comes in and provides an up level of the training so that these medical providers understand how to appropriately care for injured workers. Employers want to send their injured employees to a medical provider who understands that the solution to the problem is not always removing the worker from work from an extended period of time. They want to send their employees to providers who understand that we're going to provide exceptional care to the worker, and that is what is going to allow us to return them to work quickly and safely. So that drives down the workers' comp costs, and it also creates additional streams of revenue for the clinic because now they're developing a reputation for being amazing, and more employers are going to want to send their workers to that clinic. So I'm super excited about the initiative. You'll start seeing a lot more posts coming from the company in the weeks to come, and just sharing helpful information to make the workers' comp system better.
So one of the neat things about our listeners as a collective group is that obviously if they're listening to a podcast, they probably have access to the internet, LinkedIn, those types of things. So take a little bit of time and talk about if they want to contact you about Ascend. I know you have a website, www.ascend, ASCEND, so they can certainly go there. How can they get in touch with you? You're on LinkedIn, I know. I just saw an announcement about that. Do you have any other social media platforms that they can contact you on?
We are on Facebook and Instagram using that same handle, Ascend Med. And perhaps the easiest way would be through the website and sending us a message. And then we respond within 24 business hours. But yeah, we're here to help anyone who has a need.
Good. I'm just so impressed with you. I really am. I hope that you can be involved more with Ergonauts as your company grows and our company grows. Our chief visionary officer, Steve Davis, was really excited to have you on. I think you're going to talk later on today. And he's like, I can't wait to see you because I think you're going to get along great. So, when you logged on, I saw your smile. I knew immediately that we were going to have a good time this afternoon. So
thank you.
Just an amazing interview. I really appreciate your time. And I would like it if you would consider, coming back after you've been sort of up and running with this team for a while and tell us, give us some success stories. We need some good news in this world. Well, Dr. Cadet,
I would be so happy to do that.
That would be awesome. Thank you so much. Dr. Cadet, thank you so much for your time. Well, folks, that will wrap it up for another edition of Ergo Algo. Again, my name is Earl Ray Neal, your host. Please leave any questions, concerns, comments that you have down at the bottom. We read those. And if there's a topic that you would like for us to cover, please let us know that. We will take a look at finding the expert in the field, like Dr. Cadet. That's exactly what we pride ourselves in doing on this podcast. And again, thanks so much, Dr. Cadet. And that will wrap it up for us. You all have a great day.